Yeah. So Henry, first of all, great personal trainer. So if you're looking for somebody in the Temecula 951 area and you're looking for somebody to like help with injury recovery or just get to the next level athletically, he's the guy I would recommend. Okay. Let's get that out of the way. But, you know, I'm beat up, grizzled jiu-jitsu guy with a bad leg at the time, you know, burrito big, you know, like, you know what I mean? Like once you start jiu-jitsu after a while, you're like great cardio because every round is a killer round, right?
Yeah.
But once you get better at jiu-jitsu, you realize like I'm not getting as tired no more. So, you know, I got married, I got bigger, you know, I'm a big boy. So this guy's just killing me in a workout. He has me on the row machine. I'm just sweating mayonnaise, right? The guy's killing me. And then he's like, okay, so he has if you've worked out with Henry, he has this thing where you like, how you stand on one foot and you're like picking up a sandbag and you're grabbing all these balls all over the place. And I'm just like, what is going on? I see everybody else working around me, kettlebells, workouts I've done before, squats. He's like, I don't care how you pick it up. You just got to figure it out. Use your brain. Like he's making me do thinking puzzles with my brain while I'm working out. I'm just completely gassed, right? Now he's like, oh, so we're done. I'm like, oh, okay, that was cool. All right, we're good. And then he's like, now. I'm like, what do you mean now? I mean, what do you mean? We're here for an hour already. And he's like, I want you to grab the sandbags, 2 of them, and I want you to walk uphill a mile and then bring them back and walk them back. What do you call it?
It was a death carry.
The death carry.
It's a death carry.
Yeah, it is. It is. So by the time I get back, I'm just like halfway up. I'm just like, look, I'm about to turn around. But I did it. I finished it. I went all the way up, him all the way down, dropped them at the bay door there, and I'm just like dead. And he's like, all right, see you next week. And I'm just like, okay. And I get in the car and I'm driving. My arms are just dead. Like I felt like a white belt. You're like, wow, what happened? That was the craziest class ever. And I'm just dead tired. And I get home and my wife's like, how was the workout? I was like, that was a workout. That's for sure. I'm gassed. And so long story long, Henry signs up and comes and tries jiu-jitsu at Checkmat. And I'm like, oh, this is my chance. It's my chance to show him what the smoke is. You know what I mean? And I know like the guys in my gym, they go hard, especially when a new guy comes in. Right. So I'm like, James, go with Henry. So-and-so, go with Henry. I went with Henry. So-and-so. I was like blitzing him with guys. I was putting it on him. And he was getting tired. And then I was like, you remember, Henry? Remember the death carry? Remember the death carry? I was like, this is my chance to get it back on you. And he started laughing.
7 years ago.
But Henry's in pretty good shape. So he was kind of like, handled it better than I handled the death carry. I'll tell you that. But then he texts me like on the way home. He's like, bro, driving home, my arms were so jello-y and tired. I was like, my grips are shot. And I was like, that's what I wanted. That's exactly what I wanted. So I kind of got my revenge. And now Henry has joined the team and he's one of the better up and coming lower belts, not a lower belt, but a blue belt, right? So he's one of the better blue belts we have in the gym. And he gives a lot of people a lot of good work. And I can put a brown belt or a purple belt against Henry. And if you don't be careful, Henry's going to smoke you real fast. He'll get up on you. And so, yeah, he's very, very good blue belt. And he's a good addition to the squad. But, yeah, I got my revenge that day.
It was brutal. So then I remember one of my last rounds, there's this, it's a purple belt. I guess he wrestled. I forget his name. Stud, awful pressure, awful, like suffocating pressure. And I'm just exhausted. Right. And one of the things that I refuse to do, obviously jiu-jitsu is like an ego thing, right? Like your ego is why you want to win. Your ego also says, hey, I got to keep in check. I got to learn. I got to know when to tap. But there's one thing I will not tap to. And this is just me. I tap to this as a white belt a lot, and I just refuse. You will not get me to tap on pressure. You will not get me to tap on pressure. So he puts this guy on me and has me do. This guy's suffocating. He suffocates me all the time, and he makes.
Steve, I think you're talking about Steve.
Steve, yes,
I think you're talking about Steve. Yep, Steve's very good.
And he makes me do an 8-minute round with him. He goes, "We're gonna go a little longer." Changes the clock, makes me go 8 minutes. I'm already like exhausted. And I remember just going through it. I was like, I know what he's doing. I know what he's doing. He's trying to get me to quit.
It was a gang initiation. Is what it was. We were jumping you in.
Oh man, it was brutal. It was brutal, but I loved it. You know, it's a great sport. I remember, so kind of going back. So he talked to me about jiu-jitsu. I've been knowing about jiu-jitsu for a very long time. Diehard UFC fan. So I've been following it since like the Tito Ortiz, Randy Couture days. And, you know, I wrestled in high school. I sucked. We'll talk about that, because one of my personal pet peeves is when people say, oh, you wrestle, that's why you're good. I played basketball my whole life, and I feel that's why I'm good at moving, besides the fact. So I remember my kids, they started doing jiu-jitsu at Carlson Gracie. Awesome kid program. I think all kid programs, jiu-jitsu programs are awesome, but my kids were doing that. And I remember him, the professor, being like, hey, you want to try it out? And I'm just like, last time I tried it was 3 years prior to that. I did like the little trial, and then I blew my knee. Literally, I think on the second day, I blew my knee. I blew my, not blew it. It was just a meniscus. It was a meniscus injury. So then I was like, you know what? I'll deal with it. Came back the next week, other knee. So I said, yeah, jiu-jitsu is not for me. So at the time, I think I was like 30 years old. So then fast forward 3 years, I'm 33 now. And the professor goes, well, I started jiu-jitsu when I was 33. And I'm just thinking, like, my last experience when I was younger, I blew both my knees, whatever. I'm watching my kids. I don't want to be that dad. I'm seeing all these memes about, you know, dads that don't do jiu-jitsu, but their kids do. It doesn't help that he posts up a meme like every day making fun of those guys. So I jumped into class, and this girl, I think she was, if I'm guessing, 16, 17 years old. She came up to me, asked me to roll. And I'm thinking, like, man, I don't really want to roll with the girl. Like, I have no experience at this time. I'm like fresh white belt, but I have enough like intuition to be like, I'm not going to go hard on a girl. So I'm like taking it easy, whatever that means. And halfway through the roll, she looks at me. She goes, hey, is it cool if like you go harder on me? And I was like, okay. She goes, yeah. Like, she goes, I'm not like a big fan of jiu-jitsu, but the reality is if someone attacks me in real life, they're probably going to be a male and they're not going to be my size. She was, I'm guessing, 125 pounds soaking wet. So I was like, cool. So I try to go harder on her. Within like 2.3 seconds, I'm being swept. And sweeping, if you don't know, it's when the bottom person ends up on top. So I'm on top of her. And then 2 seconds later, I'm like, she flipped me over. And I'm like, okay, this is embarrassing. So then she gets me in side control. And I'm, you know, at the time, I'm a trainer. I've been doing it for a while. I'm pretty strong. She felt like she was like a magnet on me. Like, she was stuck to me. I could not get her off of me. And I remember just my lungs just dying. She was suffocating me, where I needed to take a break. Remember I said I don't tap to pressure? I asked her if I can, like, I just need to take a break. I walked outside because I felt like throwing up. I had this 125-pound, 17-year-old girl suffocating me. So you could imagine my ego. I'm like, wait, this doesn't make sense. So the very next roll, I had another kid come up to me. He's an orange belt. At the time, I knew nothing about colors. So I'm like, what the heck is an orange belt? And I was like, all right. And he came at me hard. And I was like, all right, I'm not going to let this kid get me. Granted, I'm already feeling like throwing up. And then he introduced me to something called a wrist lock.
I don't like those guys, dude. What are orange belts doing wrist locks for? That's frowned upon.
He wrist locked me. And I remember, like, afterwards, I was talking to Professor Tom from Carlson Gracie, and I was like, all right, I got suffocated in side control from a girl who swept me and threw me. And then I had some other little kid. I'm guessing he's 140 pounds soaking wet, not much bigger than the girl. And he wrist locked me and I tapped. And I'm just like, what the heck? And then same thing, he got on top of me and I could not figure out how to get him off of me. And I was just like, this is a superpower. And I started jiu-jitsu probably a month after my kids. And I was like, man, I need to learn this superpower. My kids need to learn this superpower. But that was my initiation, you know? So I was there for some years, and my kids, they did some competitions, and I think it's awesome. But
I think all women should learn jiu-jitsu, especially in the landscape of the way the world is now, right? But I've had women in my class be discouraged, like an upper belt girl, she's purple belt, right? And she's come up to me and sat next to me on the wall and been down on herself. And I'm like, what's going on? Because she was just rolling with a fresh white belt, spazzy white belt, 220 plus man, and she's like 140 pounds. And she's discouraged because she didn't sub the guy, right? And I'm like, what's wrong? She's like, I couldn't get to my stuff. He's a white belt and I couldn't. And I had to put her aside and be like, genders matter in sports. People can say they don't, and you want the woman to fight the man, and they matter in almost every sport. I was like, that is a 200 plus pound man. You are 140 pounds. Did he sub you? No, he said. Did he get to a dominant position on you? No. I was like, you won. I was like, jiu-jitsu isn't always about killing or strangling or choking. It's about survival.
Yeah.
A fresh guy who doesn't know anything. This is the guy you're going to see outside of Walmart in a parking lot, right? This guy came at you and he was trying to beat you and he could not advance on you and he could not get you and he could not sub you and you survive. I was like, that is the perk of jiu-jitsu. That is the benefits of jiu-jitsu. You showed defense and you did not get beat. So you should award yourself, because W's look different for different people. Whether it's you're really old and a young guy's coming at you, you're a female and a male's coming at you, W's look different. So I was like, that's jiu-jitsu. You did a great job. You should be happy with yourself. I feel like sometimes, especially the higher belts, they get so down on themselves and they can't get the kill or the sub.
Yeah.
But by showing that's how you win. Sometimes I'll have the girls in my class rolling in a 6-minute round and I'll go up to them and I'll be like, Christina, I'll be like, 4 minutes till the cops come. There's 4 minutes on a timer.
That's good.
So I'm like, you're not, like, we're trying to survive here. We're not trying to, I don't want you to shoot up a submission, miss it, and then you're in a bad position. Position over submission. Stay safe. 4 minutes till the cops get here. They're on their way. Can you stay alive? And that's kind of what I tell to my girls. Or, even a smaller and older man, like, hey, help's on its way. Can you survive for the 4 minutes? Can you stay safe? Can you keep your neck tucked? Can you protect yourself? So I think jiu-jitsu benefits everybody, and hopefully, like my kids, I'm gonna have my kids do jiu-jitsu. My daughter started. I started her a little later at 7 because, my wife not a huge proponent on jiu-jitsu. She sees how beat up I get. She's not huge on it. And I started her at 7 because I said, if I only got a 3-year window, I want her to retain. I think if you start them way young, they're going to grow to be, she could get burnt out early, but I don't like jiu-jitsu no more. And then my wife will be like, all right, it's over. No more jiu-jitsu. And then I'm like, I was like, I want all my kids to get to at least blue belt, because martial arts, even though jiu-jitsu is a sport, it's more than a sport. Jiu-jitsu is something you could carry the rest of your life. Like, your kid will always have that scissor sweep, will always be in his back pocket, even at 40.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Getting good at sports, getting good at hockey, football, as good as sports are with team building and learning to conquer an obstacle, or, whatever sports can bring to you, learning physical contact, all that.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu is a skill that can resonate with you for a life. And I want my daughter to be at least a blue belt. And whether she quits, she burns out 7 to 9. She doesn't want to do it no more. You're coming back at 12. You're going to 15. You're going to get your blue belt. You have to have your blue belt in my house. Once you get your blue belt, you can do whatever. Hopefully she goes beyond that. But I want my kids to be ready, because God forbid, the way this world is, the way men are being developed, in my opinion, without father figures, and the way they're treating women in the streets, and how that's the man taking care of the woman, that is completely non-existent. Guys don't open doors for women no more. They don't care. They put hands on women now. The way that is, it's good for your kid to have the discipline to defend herself, or even my son to know what it's like to be bullied on the mat and be crushed and be smashed. So, hey, it's not cool to be that.
Yeah.
So I think it's important for all kids and even females to do jiu-jitsu.